Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's really nice to see you here. Waverly joining from Brazil. We have Leonie from UK. Welcome. Don't hesitate to introduce yourselves in the chat. We have also people joining from Nigeria, France, Germany. Welcome. And it's a real pleasure to have you here together with us and with our kind speakers, spotlighting the screen. And we welcome you to this event on traditional wisdom for conscious food system. And this is a collective inquiry we started 1 year ago with Bernard Guri, our CAFSA Indigenous Peoples Engagement Advisor. We have been doing consultations and many dialogues with Indigenous peoples and local communities from around the world. And they have expressed their interest in holding regional dialogues to learn from many initiatives around the world. And so today we are focusing on Africa. And I am pleased to be welcoming Father Godfrey, Christina, and Daoud, and Mersha. So don't hesitate at any moment to put your questions in the chat for the speakers. And if you have reflections, you can also put them in the chat. So I will now give the floor to Father Godfrey to give us an introductory speech. And yes, over to you.
Thank you very much. Please, could you share the screen? Share the screen, please.
Yes, we are going to share.
Thank you. The next one. The next one. These Africans, we are all connected, and it has been destroyed. We are no longer conscious. The line of connection is mind, African spirit, mind, we are connected, body. But soil, not soul, but soil. These are the three regions of connection that has been shattered. We want to rebuild it again. The ritual today is to help us Africans. Ritual is mind, body, everything, the whole being, trying to find itself again, trying to reconnect. That's the meaning of ritual. Let's now go into the African ritual of renewal, of restoration. Next slide. The African cosmic ritual for a cycle of conscious, sustainable living. This ritual, my brothers and sisters, honors the profound harmony between soil, health, bodily wellness, and mental clarity. It reminds us that Africa's journey towards sustainable progress is inseparably connected to the soil restoration and the organic vitality of our land. This ritual now, we pray, will serve as a call to action, uniting us to a cosmic cycle of renewal. Next slide. This now, let's start with it. This African cosmic ritual for a cycle of conscious, sustainable living. Let us remove all our shoes. If you are there, remove your shoes. Either you sit down in your barefoot, anything. Connect. Let's forget to connect back to mother soil where we are born. Please sit down, stand up, but must be connected to the soil. Let's start this ritual now. Let's rest up our hands. Brothers and sisters, our mother Africa is calling us, because when our minds and bodies are organically connected to the soil, we enter a state of heightened consciousness. A conscious mind nurtures healthy soil. Healthy soil sustains a vibrant body, and a vibrant body strengthens a conscious mind. Therefore, this ritual is going to help us to escape the cycle of unconscious habits Let us choose a virtuous path towards awareness and well-being. A healthy living soil will sustain us, empowering us to confront the challenges of a sustainable future in Africa with resilience and hope. Therefore, together, let us embrace the trillions of microorganisms with the soil, within the soil, our bodies, in the water, and in the air, courageously aligning ourselves as St. Francis of Assisi on a path of restoration and renewal. Next slide. This is our ritual. Let's explain it now. After this ritual, please, next slide. Now, to help us to move forward now after this ritual beginning, let us know how this crisis started so that can give us an idea on how to heal, how to turn this ritual into principles and actions to solve our problems. For remembrance, linking this ritual now, the degeneration of our soil, particularly the African soil, only intensified with the onset of what they call conventional agriculture, which fragmented the natural cycles that once sustained our ecosystem. By isolating the three vital sectors of production, crop, animal, and aquatic life, this approach disrupted the interconnected nutrients and energy flows, fueling the current soil degradation crisis. So far, the responses have largely been symptomatic. We're only treating the symptoms of this disease by focusing on chemical fertilizers that temporarily boost productivity, but fail to address the core issues. Let us go now through this ritual into a radical solution. Achieving true sustainability demands production systems that reintegrate these three sectors, restoring the natural cycle of energy and nutrient exchanges. Next one. The future of agriculture lies in how we harness the environmental capital around us, especially microbes in the air, water, soil, and living organisms, to build post-conventional food system that is a problem. We're going to transit into a new system that is healthy, that is living. Microorganisms are the hidden workers of our ecosystem. Let's call them back. Let's re-engage them. Let's deploy them to drive the processes that underpin health and productivity on the land. By understanding and utilizing trophic levels in our ecosystem, we can harness the full power of nature to create food systems that are more efficient, resilient, and sustainable. Next one. This is it, my brothers and sisters. That's connected. Man is at the middle, circling, engineering, empowering, laboring. This is Africa. This is how Africa, the cradle of civilization, used to work, but it's been broken, is sick. Let us again, a new regeneration, a new renaissance of Africa by connecting together, move away from the left, the conventional one, and the right, the more radical, connected, where the microbes prop all of us together, dance the dance of nature. Let us start dancing with nature. When we dance with nature, nature will smile at us. But when we think we're intelligent and go against nature, nature knows how to take care of predators, which will become. Next one. So it's an integrated agricultural model. The key is effective connection to waste output of one sector to serve as valuable input for another. Effective waste management in agriculture is therefore essential, requiring a shift in both perspective and practices. By envisioning agriculture byproducts as potential resources, we can design production systems that harness waste for its nutrients and energy values, turning waste into wealth. To build a sustainable agricultural system, animal waste hotspots must be effectively utilized. Animal housing should be designed and managed to facilitate the collection of byproducts, enriching soil biological capital with essential components like carbon and beneficial microbes. Most agricultural byproducts are animal waste, and that's all of them together. The fight between herders and culture is the worst one. We don't. The byproducts of ruminants, all of them, vertical connectivity is the thing. The proper management of these resources would guide us through sustainable agricultural systems, ecological health, creating a regenerative cycle that benefits soil and the community. This is our prayer. Now let's say Songhaï, what is Songhaï? How this innovative institution can help us rebuild our world, Africa again, to become, let's make the soil great again. Next, a little short video, 1 minute. Let's go for it. The short video. Yes.
Thank you very much, Father Godfrey, for these opening remarks, for the beautiful video, and this conscious, sustainable living system you presented. And it's quite interesting to see that you present the importance of shifting mindsets, particularly in your first pillar. And I believe this has to be done since a very young age, with children, with youth. How do we empower them? I am going to shift to Daoud and Christina that are also working in these thematics, particularly in Zimbabwe. They have a whole concept of nacanomics and of a center where you cultivate a regenerative local economy. You work also with women, with youth, and you also have a system of education. So please let us, I give you the floor.
Back. Thank you very much. I will give the rationale of the innovation that we are running with and an overview and the model that we are using. And I will leave Christina to share specific example of how we are integrating traditional African wisdom in our food system. And the reason why we embarked on this journey, it's a transformative journey, a regenerative journey, was we were moved by the poverty and hunger being experienced, especially in rural communities. And I think this is the same situation throughout Africa. The bulk or the majority of people in rural communities experience hunger and poverty. And we realized that poverty is being passed on from generation to generation. And our passion and desire and our calling was to come up with an economic framework or initiative that is anchored on African indigenous wisdom, traditional cultural practices, blend, of course, with indigenous knowledge that can resonate with the African people and how we can transform individuals, households, and communities from poverty to prosperity. And we found out that it was important to go back to the homesteads, what we call Kumusha in the Shona language, which is the local language in Zimbabwe. Kumusha is a homestead. And we said, how can we develop the homestead into a viable socio-economic entity that helps people to transform their lives and to enhance their livelihoods and total well-being in harmony with nature. So our main focus and vision is to create regenerative local economies. And we say regenerative local economies because we sincerely believe that an economic framework or model can work in a particular way and in a particular community. And these help, and because they resonate with the people, people can relate with them and help themselves to transform their lives. So if you could show our slide, the one slide, I'll just speak over that one slide. And the Integral Kumusha is anchored on 4 pillars. The first pillar is on regenerative agriculture, where we're looking at nature and community, because it's happening within the community, and we relate with nature because it's all about connected to the ground, to the soil, as Father Godfrey was saying. And we focus at regenerative agriculture because the health of the soil, what Father Godfrey has already spoken about, but we do a lot of farming, and we actually produce our own organic manure to regenerate our soil. So the health of the soil to us is very important. So we talk about feeding the soil, and for the soil to feed the crops or the livestock, and then the crops and the livestock to feed us. And we use a very simple system that converts all waste into organic manure, while we are actually learning from how nature converts and regenerates itself. And the second pillar is to do with culture and spirituality. And we say, how do we regenerate ourselves, our culture, our heritage, and our lifestyle in such a way that we are stewards of our knowledge, and it moves us to move forward. We become self-sufficient, and we start to develop to a developmental economy. And that the third pillar gives us the science and technology. How can we use science and technology in an eco-friendly way? And how can we generate, co-create knowledge together? And we talk of economics here, we talk of an economy that is futuristic, the economy that promotes intergenerational wealth, and that brings out the geniuses of the communities and allows us to think about the future and create a great legacy for the future. And Naka in Shona means inheritance or legacy. So it's Naka, it's an economy of well-being. We are talking way beyond just profit issues. We are talking about the well-being of people, the total life. And this pushes into the economy of love, the economy of well-being. This is where ecology, the eco in ecology and the eco in economics meet, and we call that the ecological economy, which helps us to regenerate or co-create wealth together. So in summary, this is how our model, our regenerative local economy is anchored. And to save time, I'll ask Christina just to share with us how we are harnessing and harvesting the local traditional wisdom into our food systems and our total well-being.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dowd. My role here is what we do when we collect knowledge from the local people. We work together with our local leadership and our elders in the community, where we gather knowledge and we take that into practice. Recently, we are actually preaching to go back to basics in terms of our eating habits, because we believe you are what you eat. And for us to live healthier, we need to go back to our basics, to use our traditional grains. So we grow a lot of traditional grains in the area of Pohera and also at the homestead. So we are now encouraging people to grow, to choose the right seed, which does well according to our ecological region, which is region 5, which is a very hot area. So we dwell more on the traditional grains, your groundnuts, your sorghum, your rapako, your so forth, all the small grains. So those we also grow. We now turn them, value them into finished products. We believe also that's where the health is, where the money is. So we are saying now we need also not only grow and value add, but also be able to prepare meals for our families. So we gather these elderly people because they have the knowledge of how our elders used to prepare these meals. So we mix them with the young women, with the youth, and they work together. We work together. We do what you call the gastronomy, where we prepare all our foods, different kind of foods. We gather women, they come. Recently, we held 56 women, they were cooking and all types of recipes. So this now, we are now coming up with a recipe for our area or for our people. To say, when you visit us, for us to be well, to have wellness, to live without many of these diseases, we need to go back to basics and eat what is right food for us. So we gather these people. As we gather them, as they prepare their meals, you find these different women, they have different recipes and different way of preparing their meals. So by doing so, we come up with a book that actually now says, oh, for us to eat well, this is what we need to do. And we share notes. Sometimes we say we don't have certain things to borrow from people. No, we just say, what do we have? So in other ways, if I need milk, where do I get my milk? I can use my milk getting from groundnuts. So I now can have my tea with milk from groundnuts rather than just saying I must have a cow. What if I don't have a cow? So this is what we are doing with the ladies, and we do competitions just to give them the feeling of belonging and also honoring what we are doing so that they also take ownership and feed back to their families as well. You know, as we come together, we share this knowledge and we go back to our homesteads, we also share. And in the process, we are also making a living out of that, because we are now creating a rural tourism where people come and also experience our meals, how we prepare our meals in our area.
Yes, as we come to the end of our presentation, just to emphasize that we have a lot of emphasis on on the saying, we grow what we eat and eat what we grow. And that way we control the quality of food, our health, and also the health of the next generation. And we have a lifestyle which has been proven that our traditional way of life and the wisdom helps us to not to experience some of these lifestyle diseases like hypertension, heart diseases, cholesterol problems, diabetes, because of the grain and the nutrients that we get from our food. And that is how we are integrating our traditional African wisdom into our food systems. Thank you very much for affording us this opportunity to share with you what we are doing in summary.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daoud and Christina. And it's really fascinating how you bridge that with this whole concept on how we regenerate ourselves, our cultures, our lifestyles. And when you speak about economics and an economy of well-being, that at the end starts within us and on how we consume food, on how do we grow that food. So I would like to turn now to Mersha, who is back with us. Could you explain us how do you do that? How do you work with youth, particularly on transferring this traditional ecological knowledge from elders to younger generations?
Thank you, Luz. So I will proceed from where I stopped. So first, let me briefly introduce MELCA Ethiopia. Starting from the naming, MELCA means in the local language, MELCA means fort. If you know fort is somewhere where you cross a river. Okay, particularly when the season is rainy and the rivers are full, you don't cross the river everywhere. So you have to find the fort where you can cross the river using stepping stones. So this is what MELCA means in the local language, and it symbolizes what we are doing. According to MELCA, there are missing links. The missing links between culture and nature, missing links between traditional ecological knowledge and scientific knowledge, and missing links between nature and the culture. So the naming symbolizes that MELCA is working to revitalize these missing links. So the organization was established in 2004, 20 years back, by lawyers, environmentalists, and elites who are concerned about the erosion of culture, erosion of traditional knowledge, and disconnection of the youth from the traditional knowledge and the impact of this on biodiversity and the environment, nature. So when the organization was first created back 20 years back, so it was trying to conserve biocultural diversity of the community, particularly by working on the youth, by empowering women in conservation of nature, and also by trying to connect the youth with the elders and facilitating intergenerational learning. But through time, the organization MELCA has evolved, and currently it has like 4 big thematic areas. And these thematic areas are environmental governance. The first one is environmental governance. And to briefly introduce the thematic areas, our environmental governance program or thematic area focuses on conservation of nature by revitalizing traditional ecological conservation approaches, and also where appropriate using conventional conservation approaches, as well as enforcement, building the capacity of local actors for enforcing environmental laws that are issued by the country, and also ratified international laws ratified by the country. So this is the first program, and the second one is sustainable food systems and agroecology. In this program, what we are actually doing is, it's an extension of the first program, but focusing on the agricultural sector, where we do have the biggest chunk of biodiversity and really much impacted by human acts, anthropological acts. So we are focusing here on conservation of agricultural agrobiodiversity in the agricultural sector. And we try to do this by building, awareing our farmers to shift from the use of chemicals, from the conventional agriculture, industrial agriculture, which is agrochemical input oriented agriculture, and that is impacting on the biodiversity in the agricultural sector, including like the local seed varieties, which have been there with the farmers for time immemorial, eroding them, displacing them, and exposing our farmers to seed dependency and control under the big corporate companies, the seed companies, and also the use of orienting our farmers to stop the use of agrochemicals that are impacting on our pollinators, on the microorganisms in the soil, and also the microbes in the air, and also aquatic animals. So the use of these agrochemicals is impacting on this big agrobiodiversity, and we are trying to aware our farmers at the grassroots level to shift to the use of healthy soil fertility management by using organic fertilizers, and also conservation of their local seed varieties, and agrobiodiversity management, and production of healthy food for healthy citizens. So that's the where it is heading to. So this we are also accompanied with policy advocacy at national level, engaging policymakers and decision makers, and we are trying to contribute to conservation of agricultural sector biodiversity through our agroecology program. And the third program is eco-friendly livelihoods approach. So this program mainly focuses on providing alternative means of livelihood for community members, the local communities who are mainly dependent on biodiversity and forest, for example, for living. So these are communities, parts of the communities who resort to harvesting nature for living. So we have to provide alternative means of living, like eco-friendly kinds of means of livelihood, including beekeeping, home gardening, poultry, animal fattening, these kinds of things that are that would allow them to live in harmony with nature. So we try to provide particularly youth, like the unemployed youth, women in the rural areas who have no land and are dependent on nature for living. So we try to provide alternative livelihood means for these sectors of the community. So this is the third program, and the final and the fourth program is where we try to link the youth with the elders and try to facilitate intergenerational learning between the youth and the elders. So this is what this program is called. For the biggest, the flagship program that we are using here is the SENI program, and we focus on youth in schools, and we try to create a means for linking this youth in schools with culture, their nature, and traditional knowledge, and their self. So the wisdom. In addition to the scientific knowledge that they are learning in the schools, we try to reconnect the youth with the traditional knowledge, with the cultural values of their community, and make them learn how their communities are rooted in the cultural values are rooted in nature, and how the community has been living in harmony with nature. So we try to make them relink them with the youth. We are doing this by way of integrating them, the learning in the curriculum, creating a kind of extracurricular learning situation, and creating the youth and making the youth to have a sense of responsibility for conservation of nature and their cultural values, traditional wisdom, and reconnected with their environment, their land. So how do we do this? Basically, we use different kinds of approaches or strategies for this. And the first one is the wilderness school, where we take the youth from schools into the wilderness with elders who are well versed with the traditional knowledge, into a wilderness in a forest. And the youth stay there like for 5 days with the elders in the wilderness setting, and learn from the elders about the traditional wisdom, about the plants, about the environment, the wild animals, the medicinal values of the plants in the forest, everything, like the beginning from the naming of every tree in the forest and every wild animal in the forest. So they learn from the elders for 5 days, stay in the forest, disconnected from everything, like the technology, the internet, and so on. So they stay there for 5 days with the elders, and coming back to the school. In the school, they will establish a Sanyi club. Sanyi means, in the local language, it means seed. So we consider these students, these young people who stayed with the elders in the forest, as seeds, because ultimately they will come back to the school, and they establish Sanyi club, seed club, and then they share the wisdom with their colleagues, with their friends. Yeah. So in that way, we try to reconnect the youth, and then they will start practicing traditional wisdom in their schools, like doing agroecology in the school compound, collecting traditional artifacts, documenting these materials, and leaving the wisdom for the generation to come. Because we say they are seeds, they have to share the knowledge, the wisdom with the others, and also expand their traditional wisdom engagement practices in the community. And they participate in conservation of nature, planting tree seedlings at home and also in the school compounds, and doing different kinds of nature and culture related activities in the schools, and being reconnected with the wisdom, traditional knowledge, and cultural values of their community. So this is basically what we are doing in the schools with the youth, and trying to create intergenerational learning between the elders and the youth, transfer of wisdom from the elders to the youth. So thank you very much for listening. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Marsha, and thank you for sharing your practices. It almost looks like an initiation ritual, like back in the days when a lot of communities around the world were doing that with young generations. And it's fascinating to see how in all of your projects, with even Songhaï and Integral Kumusha, you really work with the youth and on this critical aspect on how do you change behaviors, how do you change mindsets and bring back this whole traditional ecological knowledge. So now the floor is also for our participants today, for the public. You can open your mics, you can put questions in the chat, and you can ask, yes, you can also, I read some comments. We have Farai Abiyoti from Zimbabwe, who already wants to visit Integral Kumusha. So that is great.
We host a lot of people. We host a number of people, both local and beyond our borders, within the region and throughout the entire world. So we are very welcoming and we'll be very happy to host you and everyone else who is willing to come and to have the feel and touch of the Integral Kumusha. There's much more that takes place than what we could present in 10 minutes.
Yes, of course. I also want to visit. So
You are
now
most welcome, Luz.
Thank you. I'm going to give the floor to Charlotte. You can open your mic.
Yes, and thank you very much to all for these beautiful presentations. I was actually curious in your work, Mersha, but maybe also Daoud and Christina, how are the young people responding to your invitations to learn more about the traditional wisdom and to learn from elders? Is it many of them who are very interested, or is it you have to convince them to come on board? And my other related question is, do you find that making references to traditional practices helps to encourage farmers to take up agroecological practices? Or on the contrary, do they want to say, no, I want something scientific? And I asked this because I was speaking to a person working with farmers in India, and he said they had been criticized quite a lot for not being scientific enough by introducing these methods. And he's proved to them, yes, they work, but it was a long battle and they actually had to say, no, this is also modern science showing it. So I'm just curious, how are these young people interested? And is the reference to tradition helpful, or actually sometimes you need to complement it with also scientific aspects? Very curious.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Charlotte. I'll briefly talk about especially the second question, and then give the first question to Christina. The second question, where you're saying how are people receiving the traditional wisdom vis-a-vis the scientific perspective that is required. In fact, it is intriguing to know that a lot of people are awakening to the fact that there is lost wisdom and lost knowledge in indigenous knowledge. And the whole issue of indigenous knowledge systems and wisdom is becoming a very interesting area that is being explored. Although we take an approach that blends indigenous knowledge and exogenous knowledge, and also bring in the scientific knowledge in it. And the way we do it is there are certain practices that resonate so much and so well with the local people, and would like to reinforce that. And there are also areas that needs to be explored and there's much research that needs to go there so that we can authenticate what we are doing with the qualitative and the quantitative data that is scientific. And we work with universities, we work with researchers, we also work with other higher institute of learning and schools as well. And schools are finding it very interesting. We also have a concept that what we call the community approach, where we are saying the university is within the community. So the community, we have communal learning. And then that communal learning, we help people to, we come up with the solutions to their problems. And then we bring in the researchers to help us put the scientific underpinning to them. So we blend the two. And we have found people very, very much awakening to the traditional wisdom and liking it. And we then say, how do we build new knowledge going forward? And this is where we blend the two. I don't know if that response is fine. And I can leave Christina to respond to the first question with the youth. And yeah.
Okay, thank you. What is important is to catch them young. So what we do with the youth, it's not easy to change their mindset. Remember, this thing has been going on for so long, and for them to tend to change their mindset, you need to find out their interests. And then when you have their interests, you then say, how can I go around their interests to sort of make it back to basics? So this is what we do. We work also with schools, whereby even at schools, they're also being taught. There's what they call the education for 5.0, where they are now doing a practical lessons at their school, whether it be in agriculture and so on. And they're also being encouraged to grow these traditional grains and also changing their food because there are a lot of cancers, a lot of BPs, a lot of all these things. So when they see, long back, we never used to have hospitals nearby. It used to be one hospital in about 40, 50 kilometers. And people lived very well because they were eating healthy food. So right now, if you see a child who is 9 years, they're diabetic. So it's because of the too much processed food that they're eating, the foreign foods. So because of that, it's also helping us to then talk to these youngsters to say, you know what, look at this. You know, you want to die or you want to live. So it's a matter of choice. You want to die or you want to live. So most of them, you find in the rural areas, we work more in the rural areas, the youth, and they can't afford to have these too much processed foods. Most of the time we eat natural foods. So it's very easy to work with them and even change to say, look, you know what, agriculture is the only way that, or the only industry that I feel is going to make sense in the next future, because a person still needs 3 meals to eat, will need clothing and so forth. So you have to be in the agricultural sector. So it was difficult when you're starting, but now I see most of the youth, they're actually having small little gardens, their homesteads, to also try, and even cooking, preparing meals and so forth. So yeah, we believe that in the future, we are all going to have a healthy nation, a well-being, after we've regenerated all our way of living and eating.
Can I come in? Briefly?
Yes, of course, Marsha. I saw in the chat that, yes, Becky would like to know.
Yeah. So for us, we've started this program 20 years back, and by now we have political leaders, scientists, doctors, very much influenced by the program that they passed through when they were students in high school, in elementary school, and very much practicing this in their career life now. So how do we start it? We first start in the school by introducing the project, the program for the whole chunk of students in the school. So we tell them they get scientific knowledge from the curriculums. That's fine, but that is just an accumulation of information. They get wisdom from the traditional knowledge, from within the community, from the library in the community. So we tell them that the wisdom, the skill of life resides in the community, and they have to get that to become complete, to combine the scientific knowledge that they get from the school, from the curriculums, and with the traditional knowledge, and then that will make them complete, full human beings, okay, who will contribute to sustainable development, to the problem solving in the community very much. So this is the introductory part. And then they will stay with the elders in the forest for 5 days, and that will completely change them. When they come back after this process, they will be totally different students. So then they will engage into practical activities of doing agroecology, collecting local seed varieties, traditional artifacts, learning about them, traditional songs, traditional dresses, and the traditional foods that the community have been making, and how it is healthy. And then once after they are getting into the practice of it through the clubs, they will get sucked into it, and they cannot get out of it after that. So they carry it throughout their life. So that's how it comes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marsha. And Charlotte in the chat saying that she wants to go in the forest. Well, we all want now. I would like to invite.
Yeah, she's welcome. She's welcome.
We have Joshua Konkanko joining from Cameroon, and he actually has a youth initiation ritual ceremony, and he works with this concept of spiritual forest. I don't know if you would like to say a word about it.
Yeah, I'm grateful for my brother Tarenke, who kind of answered the question of an organization I've created in Portugal called African Way, which is putting a question mark in the consciousness of the world if Africa has any historical contribution to the life we are living today. So I guess Luz is asking me to comment a little bit about this concept of forest, which we can look at it both ways, in the modern and in the indigenous way. From the Bible, I was initiated into Christianity, and it said that when God created man, he put man in a garden. And my initiation at the age of 13 into the Council of Elders to carry the voice of youth was exactly what my brother, I think Marsha, is talking about, the days taking young people with the elders into the forest. And I think Luz is maybe the concept of the spirit of Ndanifo. It's all over Africa. I mean, I think since my encounter with Kosa until today, this is a cosmology of African philosophical and historical and present day retraction of Africa to reconnect itself with itself, starting with its children, its education system. I'm speaking here in Denmark, where we are in a community university partnership, where the Nordic University Summer School, which is of the Scandinavian, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, they are trying to see a connection through this African Way in Portugal with a bioregional project, Iberia. And the Iberia region historically was a connection of Africa and Europe. So there's something coming together in all the presentations here, which is answering the question if there is an African way. And it seemed to be what I have struggled to be a voice. Nobody appointed me. Learning from the International Permaculture Convergence that failed Africa, and in Global Eco-Village Network, which I believe failed Africa, and now Gaia Education failed Africa. So Africa is in the process of redefining itself through the young people reimagining the Africa of the future. And these are fine. We have the concept in community university partnerships.
Thank you very much, Joshua. And I would love to see how you can all integrate your learnings and projects all over Africa. From this session today, we can see that there is an African way, and we hope to see you in other COPSA events. You will be able to watch the replay of this session, and also all the materials, resources, and presentation will be available on our website. I would like to thank our speakers that joined us today to share their wisdom, to share their good practices, and of course to all the people that came here today. I wish you a lovely day, a lovely evening, and thank you.